totality and what he saw on defense is pretty much the culprit for the loss. So, when you look at the defense, what do you guys need to do to, create more separation, given the fact that you guys can still score and maintain that separation?
I think we in general gave up too many points in the paint. We were kind of letting them get downhill almost at will, and they're either drawing fouls or finishing at the rim, a lot of second chance opportunities. And, especially a team like this, are sort of coming into it. We talked about just, trying to force them to beat us over the top, and we definitely did a good job of it.
From your perspective, you describe that sequence late, the Beal three, and then the inbound leading to Westbrook's three.
Yeah, obviously Brad hit a tough shot, and then, just a dumb mistake on my part. I was trying to get the ball out quick and get it to Kevin, and it's one of those things where he was cutting to the rim, and I was kind of throwing the ball where I thought he was going to be going. And, I had a timeout, should have been, more cognizant of it and just taking care of the ball. So, definitely just a big mistake on my part, especially down the stretch like that. Those are timely possessions. And even though the defensive effort wasn't great, we still should have won this game. And a lot of it comes down to, the timely possessions at the end.
Greg Logan with Newsday.
Joe, obviously we know the defense has been a problem, an ongoing problem for a while. But let's look at the offense for a minute. 147 in OKC, 146 tonight. Both nights without one of your main stars. I mean, what does that say about how good the offense is? And is there, because it's that good, kind of a reliance on it, to a feeling like you don't have to push as hard on defense?
I think we knew coming into the season, even before we added James, that, we had a lot of offensive weapons, and then you had James, who's easily been one of the best offensive players in the game, the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, to go kind of plug in with the guys that we already have. And, we could score with the best of them. We could easily be sitting here at the end of the year and say we have one of the better offensive teams to play this game. But that being said, the defense has to follow suit too. You can't just always rely on the offense. I guess nights like tonight, are kind of indicative of that.
Alex Schiffer with The Athletic.
Hey, Joe, you guys had that 18-point lead in the first quarter, and obviously by the end of it, they'd essentially chipped away at it completely. Just what started to go wrong for you guys that let them do that?
I think it was, it's a game of runs, first of all. You see tons of runs over the course of the NBA season. And, tonight was no different, but we just didn't capitalize, I guess in terms of stalling what they had going. They kind of got the momentum going there in the second quarter, and it's sort of seemed to continue on from that point. And, we were never really able to get back to where we were at energy and momentum-wise in that first quarter.
Malika Andrews with ESPN.
Joe, both Kyrie and Steve have mentioned how they wanted to make sure that you knew that inbound pass, it wasn't, this loss didn't come down to one play. But do you internalize that? Can you say, okay, yeah, this isn't my fault? Or is this something where you're like, yeah, I'm going to beat myself up a little on this one?
Well, I think it's definitely one of those things where obviously the outcome of the game never comes down to one play. And we all know that. But like I mentioned to Grady, there's very timely possessions at the end of the game where you can secure and finalize things. And that was sort of one of those plays where, had I even just taken a timeout, we would have been able to get the ball at half court, been able to get the ball in, or at least, turn it over at half court. It's a lot more difficult for them to get a shot, versus being underneath their own basket. So, that being said, yes, it doesn't come down to one play, but at the same time, had I not made it, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about the loss.
Christian Winfield with the New York Daily News.
Kind of along that same vein, Joe, had TLC made that layup, just the outcome might be a little bit different. So when a guy gets a clean look like that and he just misses it, what's the message to keep him from being himself up and kind of being down on this one?
It's the same thing. I think you have to kind of hit home on the same sort of sentiment where, it doesn't necessarily come down to one play, especially in that situation. You don't want to put any pressure on somebody to make a play offensively, although, you could argue you're not going to we're not going to make excuses in terms of whether we thought it should have been a call or whatever it might have been, but he shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. You could say the same thing about me, but we both were, and we both didn't just, capitalize on the opportunity.
Last question, Matt Brooks with Nets Daily.
Hey, Joe, was this opponent just the way they, grabbed off misses and push out in transition? Did you feel like that was one of the keys to why you guys didn't play as well defensively, or is it just a complete lack of focus altogether?
I mean, they're one of the better offensive teams in the NBA. Obviously, they're one of the worst defensive teams, so that's kind of why we have the result that we have. But I mean, they have offensive firepower, especially when Russ plays efficiently like he did tonight. Him and Brad are both capable of having really big nights, which they did, and everybody else, kind of plugs in as well. They have a lot of good offensive players, and just not enough stops on our part. Obviously, a lot of times when you score, what we scored tonight, you're probably sitting pretty good and thinking you're going to win the game. But too many defensive miscues, a lot of, separate sort of runs where momentum got on their side, and then you have the result that you have.